Good morning, it's Catherine Gordon, the author of Sugar Freedom, here in the Sugar Freedom Kitchen with Carnivore 9-week results. Back on July the 24th, I did the alt sliding scale diet, eliminating all sugar, all grains, pretty much just meat and animal products. People have been talking about keto AF. I kind of call it AB keto, which is animal-based keto, but also I've really truly been committing to carnivore and going carnivore, and now it's been 60 days plus 1 week, so we're going to go ahead and call this week 9. And I'm planning to do 3 more weeks after this and then start to slowly but surely reintroduce carbohydrates from vegetables that grow above the ground. Because the reality is, if I think about ideally the way that I would like to eat for the rest of my life, I would like to incorporate above ground vegetables, maybe even some low sugar fruits back into my eating plan, my daily eating plan. But for now, I'm sticking with carnivore. I'll go into a little bit of some of the reasons for that. Oh, by the way, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing these live broadcasts on Mondays as kind of a rehearsal, and then I'm going to be filming the regular episode and editing that. So thank you so much for being here and watching this as I rehearse my week 9 carnivore episode. The reason I've gone carnivore is to reduce inflammation. I'm 55 now. I had done really well in my 40s overcoming obesity and overweight by eliminating sugar and grains and then going keto, but I found after menopause that I needed a little bit extra in order to manage my weight, and so now I've gone carnivore. Another thing that happened was back in June, I was playing a pregnant character in a play. When I'm not on camera, I can actually get back far enough that I look young enough. And so I did kind of allow myself some extra treats and things like that, and I had gained a little bit of weight. So what I have found is that now, 55 after menopause, it's a little bit harder to get lean than it was 10 years ago when I went sugar-free and when I went keto. So now carnivore is that next step in the progression, really eliminating going zero carb, for a couple of reasons. But the main reason that I have eliminated carbohydrates and gone carnivore is because of what it does to my appetite. It reduces my appetite, so I'm not hungry all the time. I have enough energy. I am eating less because I want less, and this is allowing fat loss. The other thing is, I have my tape measure here. I'm not going after weight loss so much as I'm going after waist loss. And I think I've talked before about how, okay, so we're at, no, I pulled on that too hard. So at about 26 and a half right now. Yeah, so 26 and a half. I do know that years ago, I had a 24-inch waist. So I'm trying to get within that 2 inches. My research has shown, what I've studied and seen, is that if the waist expands more than about 2 inches than it was when you became an adult, this is where we start to see some metabolic issues. And the more that waistline expands, the more concerns we have. Step 1 is you want that waistline to be less than 50% of your height. I'm 61 inches tall, so we want my waist to be less than 30.5 inches. So it is less than that, but then the secondary consideration is getting it within 2 inches of what it was when you were a young adult. I know that that's 24, so I'm trying to get within those 2 inches right now at about 26 and a half, looking more at coming down into 25. If I could get it down to 24, boy, that would be awesome. We'll just have to see, but I do want to get it within that healthy range again. So I have some notes, so doing my rehearsal here with you on the live broadcast. So notes, zero carb carnivore, perils and pitfalls, and this is called, oops, I fell off the Carni-Cart, what happened? So how did I fall off of the carnivore cart? 2 things, hunger and cheese. What happened was I was working and I had a long shift, and I knew I was going to be working from very early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now I do 16-8. So I do 16 hours of fasting, and then I have an 8-hour eating window, and I usually just naturally eat 2 meals. But what happened was I got too hungry and I ate cheese. So there were 2 things that triggered my appetite. I was getting prepared, and I knew that I was going to have to go in and start work at 6. I don't normally eat that early. I usually eat around 6:30. So I was eating extra early, so I wasn't hungry when I was breaking my fast. But I went ahead and ate. I just did 2 hamburger patties, but I had them with a slice of cheese on each one. So I'm doing animal-based carnivore, but I'm kind of doing AB keto, where I was allowing myself cheese and eggs and other dairy, heavy cream in my coffee. I'm still having heavy cream in my coffee. But once again, to reiterate, I got too hungry. Wasn't really hungry when I ate breakfast. And then by the time I got to lunch, I was kind of ravenous, but it didn't really satisfy my appetite. So then when I got home at about 2:30 in the afternoon, I was really, really hungry. And it was a combination of not having enough early in the day. And then also, I think something about the cheese, I need to not eat sliced processed cheese anymore. And actually the cheese I was having was like a Monterey Jack jalapeno. So I just really overdid it there. And so I ended up eating lots more cheese. I like dove into the cheese. And then I also had a bunch of roasted almonds. And there wasn't anything weird about the almonds. They were just roasted, but I had a bunch of them. And so I ended up stuffing my face. It was too much. And the rest of the day, it was really awful, just feeling bloated and tired, and it was not a good feeling. What was even worse was the next day. I didn't even get on the scale. I didn't want to know. My fingers were swollen, terrible headache, my joints ached, and nasty digestive problems. Everything just slowed way down. I don't want to share too much with you. I don't want to gross anybody out. So one of the big issues that we face in the world of keto and carnivore and zero carb is this: well, what are you doing about not having fiber? Well, recently I read a book called Fiber Menace, and that certainly woke me up. But what I want to talk with you today about is how eliminating most fiber, because keto, you can do a really high fiber keto, broccoli, salads, all of those things, but going more carnivore, not having a lot of fiber. And that was working fine. Everything was going fine. But when I had the slip and I ate all that cheese and all those almonds, everything, shall we say, slowed way down. And then when I got back on the Carni-Cart, back on carnivore, everything started going way too fast, if you catch my meaning. I don't want to go too far with that. But I want to read you something from, which is really relevant, from Not by Bread Alone, which was written by Villemar Stefansson. And interesting, the experiment that he and his friend Anderson did at Bellevue Hospital in New York was done in like 1928, 29. This book was written in the 40s. Get it, read it. It reads really well. The language, the speech, it's funny, it's entertaining. And I just want to read you something about this idea of what happens when we're going on and off fat and fiber and transitioning in and out of carnivore. So I'm just going to read this to you. At this end of the experiment, all went smoothly with me, but not so with Anderson. My trouble, it will be remembered, had been that at the outset they stuffed me with lean. Anderson's difficulty, or at least annoyance, began on the second day after he completed a year on meat, January 25th, 1929, when they asked him to eat all the fat he could, permitting along with it only a tiny bit of lean, about 45 grams per day. That kept him on the verge of nausea for a week. So what happened when Anderson started eating more fat and they pulled back his protein, he was nauseous for a week. I too, when I got back on the carnivore cart and I really knuckled down and I was going with more fatty meats, really experienced nausea. Knowing what was going on, because I had this book, was really helpful. But that is the reality, that as we make these changes, be careful, be prepared, and also, as the doctor who wrote the Alt Sliding Scale doctor said, talk to your doctor before you do one of these experiments, because you may have some of these shifts and some of these feelings. And so I did experience some nausea from going more high-fat carnivore as I had come off of that slip. And I hope that that makes sense and that you understand that as we make these shifts in our nutrition, we can have side effects. The other thing that Stefansson says is that he noticed that when people were first going carnivore, appetite would just really drop. And then after a long time going back and adding back some carbohydrates, that their appetites would still drop. Now that's different for me. And you may know that I've dealt with binge eating disorder and compulsive overeating of sugars and starches, flours, sweets, all of those things. I don't notice that. What I do notice is I have to be very careful. If I add back sugars and starches, boom, I get into that ravenous feeling. And that is definitely not something I want to do. So some of the pitfalls, once again, dealing with digestion. When we're putting back fiber, or if the protein is high and the fat is low, sometimes it can slow digestion way down. As we adjust and we bring up the fat and we bring down the lean, sometimes digestion can, shall we say, speed way up. So do be careful, take things in increments. Please note that I am still drinking my apple cider vinegar and lemon juice tonic. One of the things that the doctors who were examining Stefansson and Anderson when they went all meat for a year, they were seeing, are they going to get scurvy? And they were trying to make sure that they weren't getting hidden vitamin C anywhere else. They were just basically, it was meat and water. If they were cooking their meat in something, they cooked it in bacon grease. They weren't having eggs, they weren't having dairy. So the big question is like, oh, where's their vitamin C going to come from? Are they going to get scurvy? Well, no scurvy. That being said, I do continue to drink my tonic, which is the apple cider vinegar and the lemon juice, because I'm not necessarily doing this as a research project at a hospital. I want to feel really good. I want to reduce my ravenous appetite so that I can stay healthy and get that slimmer waistline so that I can do what I love to do, which is to act and to sing and to dance. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about beef short ribs. One of the challenges that we have on a carnivore lifestyle is that meat is expensive. And some of the lovely fatty meats that we like best, ribeye, we can see this locally. It's running $16, $17 a pound. So these are beef short ribs. Now the problem that I've seen with beef short ribs is that so many of the recipes require slow cooking, either the crock pot or a long time in the oven, or you have to sear them on the stovetop and then put them in the oven, and just so much work. Well, I discovered another way to make short ribs. One of the problems that I have seen with weight loss and fat loss nutrition is this, we got to find a way to make the food taste just spectacular so you're not even going to miss it. The truth is, I do not need my meals to taste spectacular anymore. I really don't. I would rather have an exciting life than an exciting menu. So I want my food to taste good. I want it to be palatable, but I don't need to fuss all night over it. So the simple solution for the beef short ribs, you'll see that I've got my big cast iron pan is on the oven. Yeah, it's on the stovetop, Rehearsal. I love these live things. Rehearsal. It's on the stovetop. So what I did with the short ribs yesterday is I took a very sharp knife and I cut them off the bone, and then I just sauteed them like little steaks. And the way I do that is salt and pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. Get the pan fairly hot, medium heat, sear it on all sides, and then lower the heat and cook it about 5 minutes each side, maybe a little bit longer depending on thickness, which still leaves a little bit, a little bit rare, a little bit pink, but I've cut it off of the bone, and it cooks quickly, and that means that I'm not waiting 2 hours for my lunch. Carnivore, the convenience, the simplicity. And then the other thing is I cooked up enough that I got up this morning and had some of it for breakfast with a couple of eggs, and I didn't have to fuss over the stove. So that was also very important too. So there it is, short ribs. And you'll notice that these were only $6.99 a pound, really nicely marbled, correct? So a lot less expensive than a ribeye, right amount of fat, right amount of lean. That being said, probably a little bit more fat than I was used to. So if I'm eating too much fat in relation to the lean that I'm eating, this is when I sometimes am getting a little bit of nausea, a little bit of digestion disturbance. These are things that you need to know if you're thinking about going carnivore, going animal-based keto, going zero carb. Pay attention to your digestion. Pay attention to how you feel. Like, share, subscribe. I'm done with the live video, so now I'm going to go back and do the regular filmed video and do some editing. And once again, thank you for being here with me in the Sugar Freedom Kitchen. The Sugar Freedom program is available at sugarfreedom.com, and that is my sugar-free, even going to ketogenic with the 3-day sugar strike, but it is not, it's not a zero carb, kind of more of a lifestyle program. So you can go and check it out. Take care, everybody. Have a beautiful day, and I will be back with the more edited video next. Take care.